Greetings, BookTube. I'm here with another fractured fairy tale where I look at original folk tales and compare them to their reimaginings by the creative team of Bullwinkle and Rocky Raccoon. All right, today we're doing AESOP. We're doing Andocles and the Lion, many times interpreted. Nobel playwright George Bernard Shaw made a play of it, which was adapted to an excellent Criterion film. Going to read you a shorter version of the Aesop fable. There is a longer one called The Slave and the Lion. It doesn't add too much of any real import, except that at the very end, the advocating on behalf of the lion and this Andocles on the part of the crowd plays a role, which is not really mentioned in this version. So this is Andocles by Aesop, a slave. Aesop was also a slave, by the way, clearly an educated slave, so maybe a scribe, something like that. He wrote Greek, but people who communicated in Greek lived all around the Mediterranean at that time. So always bear that in mind. I'm not remembering. I knew at one point where Aesop was from, but I'm not remembering it right at the moment. So a slave named Andocles once escaped from his master and fled to the forest. As he was wandering about there, he came upon a lion lying down, moaning and groaning. At first he turned to flee, but finding that the lion did not pursue him, he turned back and went up to him. As he came near, the lion put out his paw, which was all swollen and bleeding, and Andocles found that a huge thorn had got into it and was causing all the pain. He pulled out the thorn and bound up the paw of the lion, who was soon able to rise and lick the hand of Andocles like a dog. Then the lion took Andocles to his cave, and every day used to bring him meat from which to live. But shortly afterwards, both Andocles and the lion were captured, and the slave was sentenced to be thrown to the lion after the latter had been kept without food for several days. The emperor and all his court came to see the spectacle, and Andocles was led out into the middle of the arena. Soon the lion was let loose from his den and rushed bounding and roaring toward his victim. But as soon as he came near to Andocles, he recognized his friend and fawned upon him and licked his hand like a friendly dog. The emperor, surprised at this, summoned Andocles to him, who told him the whole story. Whereupon the slave was pardoned and freed, and the lion let loose to his native forest. And moral is, gratitude is the sign of noble souls. So this is about gratitude. As we will see, plays also a role in the fractured version. I did just want to mention a couple Christian retellings. Many of our ancient tales were reinterpreted during the Middle Ages, the Christian era. Andrew Lang, who seems to have an amazing literary critic and folklorist, seems to have written versions of every tale ever spoken, has a version where the lion is with Saint Jerome. The fierce beasts, sometimes the desert saints were known to tame them and even be fed by them. And then I'm going to read you a real quick version, or I'll read you just the application or the moral from the Gesta Romanorum version. Here he says, application. My beloved, I need to read you that because of the knight. So there was a knight who devoted much of his time to hunting, and it happened one day as he was pursuing this diversion that he met a lame lion who showed him his foot. The knight dismounted and drew from him a sharp thorn, applied an unguent to the wound, and speedily healed it. While after this the king of the country hunted the same wood, caught that lion, and held him captive for many years. Now the knight, having offended the king, fled from his anger to the very forest which he had been accustomed to hunt. There he betook himself to plunder and spoiled and slew a multitude of travelers. So the knight goes bad. But the knight's sufferance was exhausted. He sent out an army, captured and condemned him to be delivered to a fasting lion. The knight was accordingly thrown into a pit and remained in terrified expectation of the hour when he should be devoured. But the lion, considering him attentively and remembering his former friend, fawned upon him and remained 7 days with him, destitute of food. So here we have justice denied, although one can argue about the death penalty being applied, but nonetheless, the knight turned bandit escapes punishment. When this reached the ears of the king, he was struck with wonder and directed the knight to be taken from the pit. Friend, said he, by what means have you been able to render the lion harmless? As I once rode along the forest, my lord, that lion met me lame. I extracted from his foot a large thorn and outward healed the wound, and therefore he has spared me. How providential. Well, returned the king, since the lion has spared you, I will for this time ratify your pardon. Study to amend your life. The knight gave thanks to the king and ever afterward conducted himself with all propriety, and he lived to a good old age and ended his days in peace. So the application or the moral here is, my beloved, the knight is the world, okay? The lame lion is the human race. The thorn is the original sin, drawn out by baptism. The pit represents penitence, whence safety is derived. So we're accustomed to think of the pit as the fiery pit of hell, but here it is actually penitence. And the lion is us humans afflicted with thorn of original sin. All right, so to the fractured version. So in this version, the knight, not a knight in this version. The slave is very bumbling. For example, he wants to swat a fly on the master's nose, and the master says, "No, don't hit me. Use the spray." And then the slave hits him in the nose with the sprayer. And finally, the master's had enough, and he puts him in the corner, makes him wear a dunce cap. Finally, he's had enough, and he sentences him to the lion pit. And what's important in this version, like the Ambrose Bierce version, is that the lion recognizes him. However, the lion has been starved, and the lion ends up eating him. And there's like a corny joke at the end, like, so if someone tells you they won't hurt you against their better nature, they're lying, right? They're lying. So yeah, many interpretations there. We've got the leopard doesn't change its spot. We've got what is the true reward of good deeds? Is it indeed generosity? Which I had mentioned in the previous story of the crocodile from West Africa. We've got this interesting idea in all of these, I think, is that the slave, accustomed to ill treatment from the master, seeking freedom in the wood, nonetheless remains a slave in his mind, and therefore accustomed to do the bidding of a strong creature at whose mercy it is, and expecting possibly ill treatment. By which I mean the slave acquiesces to the lion's plight, perhaps out of goodness, but perhaps out of a slavishness, and it just happens to work out in the AESOP version that the lion does have a better nature, but arguably in the more realistic fractured version, he gets his comeuppance, and lions are like evil masters, and they will eat you. So some interesting themes there, I think, and enjoyable originals, and many different interesting interpretations as well through the eras. Of course, AESOP got a lot of his, especially animal tales, from the Panchatantra from back in India. I'm not sure if I'll be able to trace any of the fractured tales back as far as that. There's one Chinese one I hope to do. There's definitely some Arabian ones I'm going to be able to do for you. And, of course, Hans Christian Andersen is upcoming. And let me know other storytellers whose tales you would like to Chandlers, right? Brer Rabbit, who you would like to see me in talk about if they've been interpreted by the Fractured Fairy Tale crew at Rocky and Bullwinkle. So that's been another Fractured Fairy Tale. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll bring you another one next week. Bye.